Hello and welcome to a movement of entrepreneurs who cares so much about how they feel that they make time for themselves every day. I am the leader of this movement and the host of this podcast, and my name is Megan Nolan. I'm a self-care coach for online entrepreneurs, and I believe that in order to be truly and sustainably successful, you do actually need to be healthy and happy too. And that's where I come in. I'm the creator of the Mindful Strength Method, which is my combination of yoga, exercise, breath work, and mental fitness that helps you to break free from anxiety and be the purposeful powerhouse CEO that your vision and goals and business are calling you to be. So now, let's jump in to today's episode. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Purposeful Powerhouse podcast. Before we jump into the 3 most powerful questions I have ever asked myself that helped me truly make the transition from being the worn out entrepreneur to the Purposeful Powerhouse CEO, I will let you know that squawking sound that you can hear is, yes, in fact, a rooster. If you didn't listen to the intro episode where I talked about the fact that I accidentally adopted a Hawaiian rooster at one point, yeah, it did. I'll do an episode about that in the future. But if you hear a strange sound in the background, that is what it is. It's totally fine. In case you didn't know, I do live on Maui. We do have chickens and roosters all over the place, so it's a thing. So let's get into the pillars of being a purposeful powerhouse, the questions that can lead you to truly being there yourself, and what it even really means, right? And I think it's important to start off with a quote from none other than yours truly. You are far more powerful than you give yourself credit for. And that is something that came to me a few years ago. In the last episode, I was talking about when I got to that breaking point of being flat out exhausted, feeling like I was totally out of integrity because there I was, personal trainer that didn't exercise, yoga teacher that didn't do yoga or meditate because I was so burnt out and over it. And I heard the quiet voice of my heart whisper that this wasn't my path and that I was a warrior and I was meant for more, which subsequently inspired my book, which is called The Warrior's Journey. But it really allowed me to get to a place, and I like to look at it from that perspective, that it was something that is part of the journey of where I am and the empathy that I have for other really sensitive, driven entrepreneurs that are like yourself, going out there and making a beautiful impact in the world. And sometimes you're so into what you do and you love it so much that it's so easy to keep pouring and pouring and pouring until the cup is empty and maybe even cracked at the bottom. And you realize, oh, damn, this is not what I signed up for. And the power comes from when you realize that you get to decide, that you, in fact, are the common denominator in all areas of your life. Your business, your content, your email list, your social media, your team, your clients, your family, your dog, your. And I don't say it like that to freak you out, but just to remind you that it all depends on you. Again, I don't mean that to freak you out, but just to reinforce the need for you to be aware that you get to decide the way you spend your time and what you give your energy to. And so that was really where I got to a place of complete frustration with myself. And many of us don't recognize that we have these patterns going on until you get to a point when you're like, why the heck does it always go like this? For example, you do a launch and you go throughout the launch, and the whole time you're kind of dangling the carrot of like, okay, once everything's done, then I'll take a time out. And then you get to the other side of the launch and you're so exhausted that you're so flat out and you're like disappointed and frustrated that you didn't get to your goals or you didn't get as far as you would like because you probably set insanely high standards and goals for yourself. And, even like the superhuman woman of all, amazing creatures couldn't even get anywhere near the goals that you set because you're just like have such incredibly high standards for yourself. I certainly do as well. And then getting to that point and being so exhausted that you're flat out and completely depleted after the fact, and you're in that shutdown mode, and you're just totally like, why does this keep happening? And then having that, like, going from the shutdown mode to, okay, well, here's what happened in the launch. Maybe you didn't get to the goals, maybe you didn't have anybody sign up. I've certainly had that myself. And then, or you have one person sign up and they're really excited and you're like, oh my goodness, okay, all right, I got to do this. But you're so not into it at that moment. And you get yourself back into gear because you've made commitments and you want to show up because that's who you are, because you have that integrity, right? And you're really focused and you love what you do. But when you start to notice these cycles playing out, or maybe for you it's talking yourself out of exercising first thing in the morning because you're just not a morning person or what have you, what happens is that many of us will get to a point when we're like, enough, I don't want to do this anymore. And that's the thing, as humans, we tend to wait till it gets really bad, and I heard somewhere recently, like, how bad do you have to hate it before you take action? And I thought, man, that's sad, but it's true. A lot of times we wait till it's really, really bad before we take action. The pressure and the struggle of the the situation being so much that, like, it's easier to take action than to be in that place anymore, and so that can be what tends to happen with us. And so this is where I wanted to start, because I feel like this is one of the things that's missing in popular manifestation techniques, is because we're very focused, and of course we want to focus on where we want to go, and we'll get to that in a minute. But sometimes we have to have the contrast of, I'm so done with this. I don't want to deal with it anymore. I don't want this to be my reality anymore. And that's where I got to too, because I was like, what the actual everything is like, I'm giving it my all and it's not getting anywhere, or, it's not getting anywhere fast enough. Or, I was frustrated by the inconsistency, and I was like, oh, well, maybe it's because you're being inconsistent, and I was all over the place. And so that's the first powerful question to ask yourself. What are you no longer available for? Because we need to make a decision, because the reality that you're living in now was created by the version of you that you were living into then, that has then led to the results that you're seeing, right? What nervous system were you living in at that point? What thoughts were you having? What beliefs did you have about yourself? What emotions were you embodying? What actions were you taking? They all created the reality you're living in now. And if you're not liking that reality, which is where I was, and I said, you know what, enough already. I'm drawing the line in the sand, and I am a warrior, and I am meant for more, and I am going to take action. And so I made that decision. And I realized what I was no longer available for was the struggle of the doubt, constantly doubting myself, constantly believing, and the lie in my head from the saboteurs, from the negative committee in my head, like, it's not going to work out. Why do you even bother? What are you going to even do here? And, no one's going to sign up, and blah, 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 all of that stuff. Because, like, I can predict the future. I can't. But my brain tried to convince me that I could. And so making that commitment to yourself and truly to your vision and the people that you get to support, to take a look at. And again, we want to look with gentle eyes, because of course your judge saboteur, which is the master saboteur, the inner critic, but next level inner critic, because it's going to judge the situation. It's going to judge you. It's going to judge other people. It's going to judge everything. So the judge will want to make all of this wrong. But just take a gentle look at yourself and realize, okay, you know what? These are a few things that I want to leave here. Whether you're starting a new year, a new week, a new quarter, a new day, a new breath, you choose. What are you wanting to leave behind? And that old version of you, we get to essentially and actually prune away, because that version of you has created neural pathways, patterns, beliefs, chemicals in your body that you get to then shift away from. And so what you get to decide, and what you ask for yourself, what am I no longer available for? What thoughts am I frustrated with and that I don't want to think anymore? What beliefs do I have that are not necessarily supportive? They might be limiting beliefs. What emotions do I feel constantly that are ones that just don't light you up, that aren't your North Star emotions, that aren't those feel good emotions, that are your true essence? What are those? And it's important to bring attention to them because we want to begin to become so aware of them that when they start to kind of creep back in, because that's how they do, you say, oh, no, not anymore. And when you have that level of awareness and you think about what you think about, that's actually one of the pillars of being a purposeful powerhouse. It's called metacognition. So you're thinking about what you're thinking about. And so that's the first question. What are you no longer available for? So you can begin to imagine that that is the past self that you are leaving here. So then that, of course, leads to the next step. What is your vision for your life? How would you like it to feel? What would you like to believe about the universe and about yourself? How would you like to show up every day? And if you think about your vision and what it makes possible for you and the people that you support and what that turns your life into, and what that sets the stage for, or opportunities flowing in, people reaching out to you to work with you, like all of that stuff, what does that feel like? And that answer to that question, what that feels like, what does your vision feel like? Those are your North Star emotions. And those are really important because we want to, just like navigators use the North Star to, travel across oceans, we want to use those as a magnetic pull towards your vision. Because when you can now decide, okay, I'm no longer allowing for this self-doubt and the self-criticism and the defeated feeling. And instead, what I'm really focusing on is feeling confident in yourself, believing in yourself, living into the energy of your vision of joyfulness and playfulness and gratefulness and whatever else it is for you, then that is what allows you to show up on purpose. Again, a pillar we'll get to in a moment. So that's the second powerful question. What would you like your vision to look and feel like? And we want to get really specific because when we do this, this is going beyond visualization. And there is a component of visualization because we are allowing in that energy and we want to feel it in your body. And what's happening when you feel it in your body, combining the elevated emotion with a clear intention, and you're breathing and you're holding that energy in your body and in your heart, you create a consistent state in your heart rate rhythm, which then soothes and regulates your nervous system. When you have that coherent or consistent state in the heart rate, then that signals the same for your brain because you send more information from your brain, from your heart to your brain than vice versa. Your body is constantly communicating with your brain by way of your nervous system. So that signal comes from your heart up to your brain, and your brain gets the signal, oh, everything's okay. And then it allows you to drop in even deeper into that creative field of all possibility. So what we're doing there is using your body, using your energetic essence, combining that with your mind. And when we do that, and you're making that decision and you're aware of what you no longer have the space for or what you will tolerate, and you learn to catch yourself in the old patterns of self-sabotage, and you pause and you decide, what would my higher self do? What would my sage self do? What would your next level self do? And you take action from that place, then you begin to co-create a new reality. So this is actual science. Energetic frequency is a science because your heart has a measurable electromagnetic field to it. Your heart coherence is something that's very measurable and it has a beautifully healing effect on your brain. And simultaneously, it's energetic because you are constantly sending out a vibration. And when you have that steady rhythm and you're in that energy of your vision and you're sending that out, then you are aligned. You are in alignment with a possibility that you envision. And so what we're doing there is actually using these ancient techniques of energetic alignment, intentional thinking, metacognition to truly be purposeful. And that's your power, right? And you are far more powerful than you give yourself credit for when you start to recognize these things. Okay. So we know what we don't want. We know what you do want. And now what are you going to do to get it? because in order for this to become a reality, it has to become a practice. And this is where yoga comes in. This is where mental fitness comes in, because when you catch yourself in those old patterns and you pause, you're able to take command of your mind, which is the essence of mental fitness, learning to strengthen the muscles of your mind so that you can be in command. So that's the first mental fitness muscle, is catching yourself in the old patterns of the old self, the old way, and then acknowledging and coming to presence. So taking command of your mind, focusing it by using your body. And this is where power pauses come in. The tools of yoga come in. So you can focus on your breath. You can listen to the birdies. You can wiggle your toes. You can do something that brings you into the present moment, which is your point of power. And then decide, what would your sage self do? What would your higher self, whatever you call that, version of you that you are becoming, what would they do? And then do that. So what you're doing there is so many things simultaneously, but effectively, you are creating a new pathway in your brain, because when you're carving out a new neural pathway, it's like when you're walking in the forest and you're creating a little path in the woods, and you start to walk the path over and over, and then you start to see that the path becomes more obvious. Whereas these old patterns of the old self are like the well-worn superhighway in LA or somewhere big city that you are familiar with. They are paved out, they are hardwired in, but they're changeable. They're completely changeable with practice. And so when you catch yourself in the old pattern of whatever it is, the doubt, the worry, et cetera, that you're no longer available for, you pause gently, you breathe, you come into the present moment, and then you decide. And so that is truly what you get to do to bring this into a reality. It becomes a practice. And in order for it to become a practice, enough for you to have change, which doesn't take very long and really only a few minutes. And the more we do it, the quicker you will get at catching yourself in the old patterns, then the more quickly the vision that you have will become a reality, because you are truly living into it. And so this is where it's so beautiful. The yoga practice and mental fitness, which is some of the tools I use inside the mindful strength method, go hand in hand, because you're cultivating connected awareness. You know what you're not available for. You know what you really want to live into and show up as, and that's powerful. So when you have these routines and rituals and these power pauses throughout the day that really get you into that place. So I love to start my day. So that's my morning ritual, starts with a meditation to connect to that higher vision that I have for myself and my life, and for you, because you're part of it. And the podcast obviously is part of it. So I start the day that way. And so when you have a moment where you drop into alignment, where you take control of your energy and your focus in the moment, and in the morning, you set the tone for the entire day. That's why having a magic morning ritual is so important and a huge part of the work that I do and get to support people with. So you start there. And then throughout the day, you have these little power pauses to come back into alignment. And the cool thing with yoga, right, because yoga sees you as a multi-leveled, multi-layered being, is that the tools of the practice do that simultaneously. Yoga, multitasking at its finest for thousands of years, because when you come into alignment using the asana practice, you're aligning your physical body, which allows you to open up into stronger posture, which then brings you back into emotional alignment. When you drop into that clear intention, mental, right? And all of those combine to bring you into spiritual alignment. Because I know this is important, but you also don't have all day. That's why they're called power pauses, because they're powerful and they get a lot done quick like a bunny. Okay. So making it a ritual, how will you live into that? Taking little power pauses throughout the day. And then at the end of the day, so that you can kind of bring it to a close, looking at your day, where did you win today? And this is where your evening experience is really helpful to unwind, because again, I love the analogy of like when you're cruising through the day and you're at cruising altitude and then you hit some turbulence, you get stressed out, and you're going like 500 million miles an hour, because planes go fast, but not that fast. I exaggerate. It's part of my personality. They go really fast, hundreds of miles an hour, speeding through the air. You can't just land a plane going from 500 miles an hour to a steady, quiet stop at the gate. No, you got to slow down. There's a whole like ritual, everybody gets sit down, put the seatbelt on. They put the little flappies up and the wheels down and decelerates, and then, and so there's an unwinding practice at the end of the day to bring you into a state where you are ready to rest. Right. And so having these power pauses throughout the day to be really intentional with your energy, because we can't expect to just go into sleep if we're like frantic, frazzled. So those are the three really powerful questions that I ask myself, honestly, on a daily basis, because they have allowed me to shift from being in that frantic, frazzled, worn out, ready to give up, resentful, frustrated state of the worn out entrepreneur to truly being the purposeful powerhouse CEO. So let's talk about the pillars of being a purposeful powerhouse. So, number one, learning to think on purpose, learning to take control of your mind. We talked a little bit about mental fitness. We talked about metacognition, thinking about what you think about. Because the thing is that your brain is hardwired for one thing, survival. And it's constantly looking for threats to that. Entrepreneurship by its nature is stressful and rather threatening. Even though, it's not necessarily a life or death situation when you go live on Facebook, it's new and it's novel. Or when it becomes familiar, your brain always has stories about why, that one time somebody trolled you and blah, 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 blah. So learning to take command of your mind, and that's where mental fitness comes in. And I do have a special gift for you at the end to start to learn how to do that, because that is so incredibly powerful. Because otherwise your brain has, anywhere between 60 to 70,000 thoughts every day. Most of them you've had yesterday. Most of them are negative, because that's how we're hardwired, because of that survival, bias. It's called a negativity bias, where we're prone to remember the problems and the struggles and the potential threats, not so much the nice things. Like the Buddha said that, in a field of 1,000 flowers, we will remember the snake, not the flowers, right? It's practical from a survival perspective, but it's not ideal for reality co-creation for a visionary. Right? And so learning to take command of your mind and think on purpose, making your mind a powerful tool rather than having it run you amok and go all over the place constantly. That's pillar number one. That's what it means to think on purpose. Pillar number two, moving your body on purpose. The beautiful vessel that you get to inhabit is not a liability or a frustration or a struggle, but it's a gift. And having that perspective, right, that everything is a gift or an opportunity, and your body is a gift and it's a blessing, right? And a lot of times we just kind of plow through life and, keep running and running and going until something happens. Again, how bad do we let it get before we take action? Hopefully not too bad. But that tends to happen to a lot of people of like, oh, I'll exercise, oh, I'll do yoga, I'll do the breath work, or something later. Until we get to the point of burnout, it tends to be backburnered. Unless you recognize that when you move your body in a way that's fun and soothes you and is beautiful and nourishing for your soul, that leaves you feeling so good that you're like, yes, please, I love that. You love feeling lit up. You love feeling grounded. You love feeling strong. You love feeling sexy. You love feeling confident. You love feeling energized. And you make that connection between taking care of your body and how you feel. Then it's easy to say, I'll get to it later. And that's what many worn out entrepreneurs do. It's just, I'll get to it later. And remember my story at the beginning. I was like, I can't even do it. I'm so tired. I'll get to it later. I never got to it. And see what happened. So moving your body on purpose to keep it strong and healthy and energized. Because again, going back to the foundation for everything, your energy, right? If we, go back to what you're attracting, what you're magnetizing, what you're putting out into the world, your body language, your content creation, all depends on your physical body, right? If you have a wrist pain, it's really hard for you to type or work on the computer or the phone. If you have a ripping headache, you're like, I can't turn on my lights. I can't even look at a camera right now. All of that goes hand in hand. So learning to move your body on purpose to keep it strong and healthy and energized, learning to breathe on purpose to stay connected, right? Those go hand in hand because your body is the vehicle for the breath. So breathing to clear energy. And that's a whole other conversation, but breath work is so incredibly powerful at rejuvenating you on the deepest level, right? Because the prana, the energy, the chi of the breath moving into the crevices and constantly cleansing and clearing and healing and opening, so incredibly powerful. So transformational when you know how to breathe on purpose. And so the first two pillars, thinking on purpose, moving your body on purpose, and then finally, when all that's aligned and on board, showing up. Not just going by default and just showing up as the like "Wah!" spinny outy frantic frazzled like I have a million and one things to do. I'm running on caffeine and cortisol, and I did the hard work and now my body hurts and all that energy. Or having a power pause, getting into alignment, taking control of your energy, and showing up as the woman, the person, the being that you see and feel in your vision. Because your energy is everything. That's all there is to it. Embody the frequency of the reality you desire, and it cannot help but be yours. Somebody smart named Albert Einstein said that one time. So showing up in that place of alignment and presence, tapped into that energy, embodying that frequency, holding that posture because your body is strong, healthy, right? We just learned about that. Posture is so key. Your posture, as we said, your body and your mind obviously connected. Your emotional state will impact your posture and vice versa, right? And when your body is strong and healthy and flexible, you carry yourself with that elegance. You carry yourself with that grace. You have that magnetism because, again, you're emitting that energy and that frequency. You're open, right? When you're in a collapsed, weak posture, slouched over a keyboard in the ouchy, slouchy posture and achy and tighty and groany and all the 7 sneaky symptoms of sitting too much, totally a thing, and sleeping booty, also a thing because we all sit so much. If that's the reality and that's the body and that's the way you're showing up as, then people read that about you. Whereas when you're in that state of in control of the mind, moving on purpose, intentional with your energy and how you show up, in a state of connected awareness in your nervous system, then that's an expansive state. Allowing in and retaining and holding more of what you desire, right? We're not self-sabotaging it because we're defaulting back into the old way, but you're truly aligned with the way that you've decided and you're committing to, that you're living into, that you're coming back into moment after moment. And again, it's a decision. It's a decision to truly be the purposeful powerhouse CEO, and CEO being in charge of the health and the direction of something, whether that's your life, your business, you can decide, making those commitments to yourself through those 3 pillars, asking those 3 questions so that you can truly take the reins in your life and be a co-creator with the universe, God, nature, the universal mind, the quantum field, whatever, terminology makes the most sense to you, because that's your true power. And you are far more powerful than you give yourself credit for. But when you have these tools under your belt and you practice them, then that's when you can truly experience the lasting shifts, breaking the patterns of the past, breaking free from the old mind and the old way of being and doing and thinking and feeling to create a new reality, a new version of yourself. Dr. Joe Dispenza calls it breaking the habit of being yourself, right? Because we get addicted to the struggle. We get addicted to the old ways because it's hardwired in. That's why we're addicted, because the patterns are there, that you were modeled as a child, and they became the subconscious beliefs. They became the subconscious patterns and programs that then created the reality that you're living in. So it's time to update the operating system, don't you think? It's time to make that decision for yourself about who you want to be, how you want to feel, what you want to think, because it's not just default, it's by design. And that's truly what it means to be a purposeful powerhouse. So I hope it makes it more clear why I decided to call the podcast that and why I think it's so important. And I think it's part of my soul's mission and part of the movement that I'm leading, right? Of being able to support you on your own mission of whatever that magic is that you're up to in your life, and be able to have those beautiful ripples effect into your life and increase your impact and attract more abundance and be sustainably successful. That's really where the magic is. So I mentioned a couple of times a little bit of a gift that I have for you. So I have a 3-part exclusive audio training series called From Anxious to Amazing. And it helps you to dive into the tools of mental fitness, to begin to understand how to begin to prune away these old patterns at the deepest level of your brain, inside your mind, your neurons, the neural pathways that are these patterns and programs, and shift them in just a few minutes every day. And that's such a game-changing tool. And it really is the foundation of this being and you being a purposeful powerhouse. So go ahead and make sure to grab that. The link is in the comments below or somewhere around here, because it truly is one of the most game-changing tool sets. And I mean, I love myself some learning, and I've learned a lot of things and I've learned a lot of different practices, but this one is fundamentally transformative and very incredibly powerful. And it doesn't take a lot of time. And it's actually kind of fun. And once you learn to recognize these old patterns of the negative, shitty committee in your head, like the high achiever or the restless, shiny squirrel, or, the victim, or whatever it is for you that tends to be the patterns of self-sabotage and frustration. Oh, it's just fun to call them out, because they are up to their nonsense pretty much all the time, unless you learn how to take control of them and think on purpose. So make sure to grab that special gift. And also, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this incredible community. Thank you for sharing this episode. Thank you for learning these tools so that you can think and move and breathe and show up as the purposeful powerhouse CEO that you truly are, right? And I'm honored to be part of your world and your journey. And thank you again. And until next time, take good care. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you really enjoyed this episode and got a lot out of it. Please let me know what landed for you by taking a screenshot and sharing your takeaways on your Instagram stories. Make sure to tag me at I am Megan Nolan for a shout out in future episodes. And don't forget to grab all the goodies that we mentioned during the episode, because you're gonna love them. So all the links are in the show notes. So until next time, cheers to you living on purpose every day.